You're so
Next
nice when you
question.
do that.
I know, it feels like there's not enough time. We'll start with you, Mr. Gleason. What is your position on eminent domain property rights? Give an example in which you are against or in favor of. And what is your stand on the Second Amendment rights?
Okay. Well, let me start backwards again. I don't know, the second time I'm doing it, we'll start backwards. Second Amendment, I am a hunter. I am an avid supporter of the Second Amendment. Second Amendment was designed and in there for a reason, and that is to protect the citizens of our great country against an overzealous and overreaching tyrannical government. I support the fact that each family and each person has a right to own a gun, carry a gun, and to use a gun if properly, if the situation dictated itself. So I'm a fan of the Second Amendment. As far as personal property rights, I'm also a fan of personal property rights. Eminent domain is something that I look with a skewed eye upon. I don't understand the right of the government to take somebody's property from them, whether it's in terms of physical land or increased taxes or any other. You know, the government takes enough of our stuff. When you think about it, they don't need to go around taking more stuff to provide for things that are satisfying to the government itself. An example of my thoughts about eminent domain is water rights. I think it's a great example. I think that in Indiakern, there are areas that we are a desert area, and there are wells in the community and in the county, and that there are complaints because some farmer is using more water than another farmer, and that they are using that water to the detriment of the community. And that is not really established fact. However, it is an issue that had been brought before John McQuiston in terms of determining whether or not we should recode or change codes for the property these people own, and I would be against changing those codes.
Ms. Hess.
Okay, regarding the Second Amendment, it's never made sense to me, and I just don't get it when people want to do gun control. Please explain to me the common sense there, because I can guarantee you that we're going to follow the law, and the criminals aren't. They're going to get guns no matter what, so I totally support the Second Amendment. Property rights. As Mr. Gleason was speaking, property rights is very important, and it's a balancing act. And where do you draw the line, and how do you make decisions regarding the water issues out in the Inyo Kern area? If their wells are truly going down a half an acre foot a year, what happens? Do you just eventually watch Inyo Kern and the city of Ridgecrest dry up because there is no water? So property rights can be very, very sticky. I believe in our property rights, but sometimes there's a fine line on how you're going to address these. And I think people really need to realize that. You just can't say no. Sometimes you're pushed in a corner and you've really got to look at this. Regarding my position on eminent domain, I have experience with that because I work for utility. It's my job to go out there when we're putting in a substation or transmission lines, and I've got a project I'm working on right now. I do everything in my power to steer our company towards a willing seller. Because the bottom line is, if you're in an eminent domain fight, it's going to cost a lot of money. I think that the only way you get your projects through is by finding a willing seller. I think it's a shame that happened on the East Coast several years ago when they decided that the eminent domain issue was okay for the city. I think it was the city that came in and decided they were going to put I think it was a mall, some kind of development for private industry. That is wrong.
Mr. Freeland.
Certainly support Second Amendment rights. I back it up. It's not just lip service with me because I'm a life member of the National Rifle Association and I belong to the California Rifle Pistol Association. I'm an avid hunter. Private property rights, responsible private property rights, certainly. Certainly we don't want private property owners dumping sewage on their neighbors and things like that, but certainly private property rights are, if we remember our principles of our country, there's really those two things that separate our country from all other countries in this world. That's our Second Amendment rights and our private property rights. We never want to give our rights away, because if we ever give our rights away, you won't get them back, and we're seeing that happening all the time. Hang on to those rights fiercely. In terms of eminent domain, I too believe it should be by willing seller only, because eminent domain has really been abused. Look at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and if we don't realize it, the taking that they put on people, if for some reason a poor farmer out there inadvertently supposedly harms a threatened endangered species, they can do a taking on this farmland, and that is absolutely wrong. And we've seen that happen in Kern County. And I'll certainly guard against any of those kinds of things, particularly when you get this intrusive federal government like Fish and Wildlife Service coming in and trying to do the taking responsibility.
Mr. Holloway.
30 seconds. I also am a life member of the NRA, and like Debbie said, I don't understand the mindset that thinks the Second Amendment rights need to be repealed, when every statistic you find where concealed weapons permits are issued, greater the crime rate goes down. It's ludicrous that we can't get, well, I know why we can't, and you guys in this room know why we can't get that moved forward. Private property rights, I think the water issue is a huge issue where that's going to come into play. I think it's something that you want to say absolutely private property rights, you can do anything you want anywhere, but when you're sticking a straw in the ground with a containing aquifer and you realize it could be impacting others a great deal, I think that's going to be a huge debate, and that's something I don't really look forward to, but I definitely will be curious how it turns out. Eminent domain, as a rule, I'm against eminent domain, but I had an example as a Ridgecrest City Councilman where we had a blighted corner that probably had been blighted for about 20 years in our community, and it had a gas station with a tank that had hazardous waste and needed to be, it was in essence a brownfield. We had 7 property owners that were ready to take the purchase, the sale price that was offered to them. The last owner knew he was the last owner, and he held the city hostage and ultimately held up a project that would have been for the greater good of the entire community. We never had to go to eminent domain. I'm thankful of that, and we did pass a policy in Ridgecrest where we wouldn't support eminent domain after we went through that battle. But that was an example in my mind where the property owner was truly taking advantage of the entire community, and it's one where sometimes things are not black and white in life, and I think you have to look at that. The other area on private property rights where I get very frustrated, do I have 30 seconds or am I done? Okay, and then private business owners that are trying to develop mining rights and expand mines in our area are being under assault. We have people right outside of Ridgecrest that could get hundreds of jobs in our community, but they are being held up by agencies like the BLM and the Forest Service. And to me, that's the grandest abuse of private property rights. And it's a travesty when you have billion-dollar industries right here in the state when we're bankrupt and we're more concerned about a desert tortoise than we are the livelihood of the people that live in that area. You didn't cut me off.
The next question will
Nope.
go.
Don't you not let me respond to that one.
She's itching to go, man.
I'm so sorry.
Because I'm ready to defend the Constitution and the Second Amendment with the 3 calibers that I own, which is my .22 Colt to make sure my aim is true, my .38 Police Positive to honor my grandfather who carried the weapon, and a .45 Smith & Wesson when I really mean business. We have to not only believe in the Second Amendment, we have to defend it by gun ownership at all times. When we talk about eminent domain and personal property rights, it's amazing how those 2 issues constantly collide. And I think that in order to defend personal property rights, we have to always be wary of projects like high-speed rail that will do nothing but take property right from the people who do not want or support projects like that. And I know it gets a little tricky, but I have a really good example. When I lived in Las Vegas, there was one of those stubborn property owners who didn't want to sell his property in downtown Las Vegas for the price that the city determined. And he won that lawsuit, and he got the value of his property after they confiscated it and built their project anyway. Government oftentimes will use the words, improvement or redevelopment or all of those issues. Those are really important things. but they have to be done with the support of the community. They can't be done just because there's one zone where somebody's going to get a special tax rate. We have to always defend those things, and we have to be constantly watching, because the same thing will happen whether it's high-speed rail. Right now, we actually have personal property issues that are brewing between our farmers and our oil industry, because you can own your land but not own your mineral rights. And there's an assembly bill right now that's looking at that very issue. So when we talk about personal property rights, we also have to realize there's the ground below it as well. And that's really key and important, and something we all should be paying attention to. It's Assembly Bill 1966. So as we, as your leaders, step into that role, we're going to have to be listening to both sides of that issue. That's going to be a tricky one to solve.
Thank you. And I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay. Ms. Hess, concerning high-speed rail,